Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Porter. I'm here with Tony Crawford.
Good morning.
How are you, Tony?
I'm well. How are you, Chris?
Good. How is everybody out there?
We're wonderful.
Perfect. So what I'd like everybody to do, just to make sure that everybody can hear us, if you guys could go ahead and raise your hands, just to make sure that our audio is going through nice and clear.
And hit the, whoops, that one. Oh, I see one hand. Okay, there's a bunch of hands.
There's a bunch of hands. Sorry,
Okay,
we had
good.
to expand that out. So we do appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day to join us on these webinars, and hopefully you guys get a ton out of it. We have a couple of housekeeping things on there beforehand.
I do want to do a poll, so I'll get this started. And I don't know, Chris, if you want to talk about something while I'm giving everybody a chance to click on it. So I have 3 questions. This is the first one, just to see who's out there, who's watching today. So just wondering what your primary discipline is.
It's like mostly mechanical and plumbing, some electrical, some low voltage, architectural, and others.
Yeah, I could only have 5 slots, so I didn't have room for structural, so structural ends up being other. But
nice.
Yeah. But it looks like there's not too many in that, so I'm going to...
Looks like the battles between electrical and mechanical and plumbing.
I'm going to close it out in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Let's share that. Sorry, it's going to jump around as I switch between these two. So there you can see the answers. Well, actually almost half are mechanical plumbing. Close is electrical.
Can I ask you a silly question?
Sure.
If there's 48%, 43%, then where do you get 26% from the other two plus 4?
It seems like a lot of
percentages.
Maybe that's because our clients are really hard working. They do multiple jobs at once.
That's like 125%.
That's how much I give every day. So just to see also who's listening today, so I kind of get a feel for what level to present. How long have you used Revit? Do you use it for quite a while? Well, for a short time. First project was 100%. The first 1 or 2 people that clicked. Okay, so this is a little more. It's a little more of an advanced audience, maybe. I'll close this down in, I don't know, 3, 2. There we go. I'll show you what the answers are. So it's variety.
Yeah.
Some people on their very first project. Some have been using it for a long time.
Well, the question is, you asked how long you've been using Revit. Revit MEP, Revit's. Do they come from architectural or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing is Revit MEP is still fairly new. It's it's coming around.
It's a lot better than it was when I started.
Right.
Let's see. And the last question, just to see how much experience specifically with families, because that's what we're going to cover today. And then in just a moment, I'll look at specifically just what to expect, what we're going to cover, what I'm not going to cover, because it is a 1-hour session. In fact, by the time I get started, it'll be less than that. I've already spent 3 minutes talking about an introduction.
I've been out to a lot of offices, and every now and then you hear somebody editing a family, and you hear people screaming and running down the hallway. Those are the people that are in the 22%. Somebody's like, "Hey, can you work on this family?"
And you hear some screaming.
Yeah,
there's a 22%.
I'm pretty sure that was Rod too.
So if I add the first 2. A little or less, it'd be 63%. Doing math on the fly. That's why I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
Because I really, math is hard. Okay, let me close that and get back to where we was. There we go. Okay, so just what we're, some expectations of what I'm going to cover, maybe what I'm not going to cover. Actually, I was going to update this slide. Forgot. So we're going to work with families. It's an additional skill set. This is a 1-hour webinar, so there's absolutely no way we could cover everything in families. I tell you, families, working with families in Revit is kind of, speak English well, not do I? Is an additional.
Thank you, Yoda.
It's an additional skill set. You can be pretty good with Revit and then still need to learn families, because there's still a lot of similarities, but there's things that are different. There's different tools that are useful that are used within families, and some people are great at some are great at others. Often in an office, like 1 or 2 people or 3, depends on the office size, will be the family experts. Then some depends on the office. One might be the gatekeeper and the family experts for mechanical, somebody else for electrical, somebody for plumbing. So there's a lot of things within families. We do have a Revit productivity class, which is coming up. I think it's a couple months away right now, several weeks. I have the dates at the end of the slide, at the end of the presentation. So there's a lot of things in there. We spend almost a day on just families in the productivity class, and honestly, we could probably spend 2 days covering families. So the short version is there's a lot of things that we won't cover today. I'm going to try and get to shared parameters. We'll see how much time we have. That's something that's, I'm going to say, not for the faint of heart. It's not that complicated, but that is something. Shared parameters are something you want to do right from the beginning. Do your research. A lot of things in Revit are more forgiving. You can fix it later. You can come back and change it. You can revise it anytime. Shared parameters, you want to organize and set them up from the beginning.
My family's dysfunctional families.
There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
Revit and otherwise.
Anytime I've ever done any Revit, you know, the couple times I've gotten to touch it, it's my family's came out very dysfunctional.
Okay then. Sorry. I was taking a drink of water not to do that. And Brian Juge did a very good webinar on just family basics where he goes through that. I'm going to pick up maybe more in the middle end of that. I'm not going to cover the basics. I'm going to start with an existing family. So on the screen I have an MEP family that needs to be altered. So I'm going to start with an existing one, and basically I'm going to add a clearance zone to an existing family. And I chose something fairly simple. Not that you would need to worry about clearance zones. I just did some quick search on the internet. I mean, this is okay, right? What's on the...
That's my office. Why'd you do that?
When you were out, that's why you're not in the picture.
Nice.
So, you know, there's
lots of... I had that chair upholstered that color on purpose.
From your curtains.
Yes.
And this one I find interesting because there's a concrete slab. So this was very intentional and deliberate. And being there's a concrete pad there, I don't know who was first. Did the electrician put the panel after that compressor was there, or is a compressor added deliberately? They poured cement right in front of the, I don't know.
I would love to see the wiring on that because it's probably wired right to the panel. It's funny. Yeah, I gotta love that.
Yeah, there were some other ones. Some of the pictures were too small. It wouldn't be quite as useful. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to see, this just to get us started. Which family would need a clearance zone? I'm going to use a lighting and appliance panel board. In fact, you see the one right there. I already have that open in Revit. If I can open Revit, there we go. I have a very, 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 very basic building. In fact, it's just 2 walls so that I could host a panel in there. So I threw in a panel. You can see it's lighting appliance panel board, 480 MCB, 400 volt surface mount, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the one that I'm going to alter because I want to have a clearance zone around this, a clearance zone, so that I can do clash detections so that, at least in the virtual BIM world, in VDC, BIM, I can prevent things like that. You know, assuming this was new construction, assuming it was planned, which this one was probably not planned very well. So I'm going to put a clearance zone around there so you can specify and you can do clash detections.
Yeah.
Is it Monday again?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Every time you say that, I keep thinking of Flash Gordon. So I hear the music.
Which part?
Clash.
Oh,
Clash. Master of the Universe.
Flash Gordon?
Yes.
Great. Now
that's your new nickname.
Now I'm going to be calling.
Or Jason over at BCR. That's his new nickname.
Clash. Oh. That'll work. Yep. I don't think he's old enough to remember that though. He's a young whippersnapper. Mm. Anyway, so I'm going to open this file, and what we're going to do. So the first few steps, kind of maybe even on paper. So just take a look at the family. What already exists in the family? What reference planes are used there, and how are they used? This one's fairly simple, which is good because I need to get it done in an hour. How are they used? Are there formulas already in there? Are there values in there? What are the reference planes named? That would be a good thing to take a look at. And you do have to click on the reference planes one at a time to see what the names are. Where you want your clearance zone, you want it on the left, right, top, bottom, 30 inches, 36 inches, whatever. So basically plan your family. And this step, honestly, if you pulled out a piece of paper and did it by hand on paper, well, I did that for this one. This one's pretty simple, just to keep myself organized. So that's not a bad idea, is to plan it out ahead of time. In fact, I'd recommend that. Plan it out ahead of time. Okay, and then actually getting into the meat of it, this is where I'm going to spend the bulk of the webinar, is setting up the family. And basically I'm going to create what you see on the right. We have the electrical panel, the dark shaded part. I'm going to add a clearance zone, which is going to be 3D or we can set some visibility, so sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. We can control whether it's visible or not. And then it can be used. It is a model, the clearance zone is a model element, so it can be used for clash detections, whether in Revit or Navisworks, or just so it shows up while others are designing, so other disciplines can see the space that you need. This could be electrical, could be mechanical, could be plumbing, could be architecture, could be ADA requirements, could be around doors and bathroom stalls, whatever. You can use the same principles, and the same principles that we're going to use today can be applied to just about anything. Okay, so the steps I'm going to do, I'm going to rename. First thing I'm going to do is rename the family. That you might have a family that doesn't need renaming. In this case, I'm going to add our company name, company standards, so I know this is the one that's approved that I've worked on. Then I'm going to create reference planes. I'm going to add some dimensions, some parameters. Let's go ahead and do these first few steps. So I've selected the family. I'm going to open it in the family editor and edit this family. It's a loadable family, a component family. You see it's, see if I can get the whole name. There we go. It's an RFA file. At the top of the screen, you can see the file name. Lighting and appliance panel board 480 MCB surface.rfa. RFA is a Revit family format.
And where'd you find this family?
This one, I was going to say it was in the template, but this one was not. They did not have the surface-mounted ones. That's a good question there, Chris.
So did you get it from like an online source? Or?
No, this one isn't out of the box.
Okay. But if you wanted to get something, what would be the quickest way to get a family from your program right here?
The quickest way to get a family, you know what? I can do this without even leaving Revit. See, if I need a specific family from a manufacturer, see, I need to have this panel, this switch, this air handling unit, this PTAC, whatever. From the Insert tab of the ribbon, I can go right and I can just start typing in Revit, and it'll search Autodesk Seek. It already knows what program. It'll be search Revit. It'll search Revit 20, well, not necessarily 2015, but search Revit families. Oh, you can't see the little circle I'm doing on the screen. Maybe some of you can. So I can do this from right within the family. Sweet. That is handy. They added that a couple years ago. Oops, I'm switching around. Okay, so here's what the family looks like. This is what's inside there if you haven't opened up families. This is a face-hosted family. And this block, this box around there, that's the face that represents the host. It's not actually part of the family. When you load this back into your project, that does not come with it. And if you select it, look at the properties, it says host. Oh, no, wait, it doesn't. It just says other, which is not super useful, but it is what it is. Quick way to tell. Well, one quick way to tell, if I right-click and try and delete this, delete is grayed out. It doesn't let me delete this host, as opposed to another extrusion. There we go. If I right-click, oh, I can delete this one. It allows me to delete it. So that's a quick way to tell. I'm not going to delete this. Well, I can't. What I am going to do is select, and this is an optional, but just hide it because I don't need to worry about this host. It's just going to confuse things. I'll probably hide this in a couple of views. So I selected it. Then at the bottom I have sunglasses. I'm going to hide element. Also, these green items are connectors. If you select one, it does tell you it's a connector element. You can see the different properties, blah, blah, blah. What I'm going to do with this one, because I don't need to worry about these, I'm going to hide that whole category, and all the connectors will go away. Okay, that's a little cleaner. This is what's inside there. I'm actually going to have to do this step again because I'm going to go to the reference plan, basically a floor plan, a look-down view. Let's see. Oh, first thing that I almost forgot to do. I'm going to save this family with a new name. Oh, now the circle's showing up, at least on this screen.
Will the circle be unbroken?
It looks like it, but it keeps moving.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put this in the same folder. You might have company standards, CAD-1. I can't talk and type at the same time. Otherwise, one or both go really badly. I'm going to just edit whatever your company name is at the end, or something useful like maybe clearance zones or whatever is useful at your company. Hopefully there's company standards for naming families, for naming files. If not, you might be the one responsible for creating them. Okay, now when I load this into my project, it will have a different name and it won't overwrite what's already there. Let's see. Some other views. I'm in the 3D view right now. I'm going to go to the ref level, which is basically a floor plan that's looking straight down on this project. And I'm going to do the temporary hide again, just to keep it a little simpler. Once you're comfortable, you might not need to do this, but let's see, hide that element, hide that category. Okay, That's a little bit cleaner. And then you can see this family is pretty simple. I've got the geometry, the extrusion in the middle, and what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Math is hard. 6 reference planes. So I'm going to add actually more reference planes and more geometries, more extrusions. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a couple of reference planes. A couple ways you can start the commands. I'm going to put a box around the outside of the existing reference planes. I'm going to draw them consistently from left to right. It doesn't matter quite so much which way you go as long as it's consistent. And even that Revit doesn't care which way you go, left to right. Bottom to top is the way I'm drawing, which is drilled into me by my high school drafting teacher. Left to right, bottom to top. Basically because of drafting pens that we use and pencils. Notice that when I select this existing reference plane, the name appears at the top. That's why I did the consistent left to right, bottom to top. So when I name this one that I just added on the left, I'm going to give it a name. And that name is going to be, bear with me 1/2 of a moment. And I'm just doing a little cheat so I can type faster. Clearance left.
Whatever happened to all those drafting tables?
They got sent home with people's back bedrooms, and their wives complained, like, why do you have this table here? You don't need this.
This thing's huge.
You heard that.
It's great for folding stuff.
Oh, that's probably good. I did not do that. But honestly what I did is because I'm like, I can get a table anywhere, but the green matte surface,
the self-healing surface.
Yeah, I peeled that off of one before it got tossed out of the office, and I still have that, and I've never actually used it. So I feel good with that decision. That the drafting table that I've never used in the 20 years since I stole that piece, I've only had to move a small rolled up piece of green plastic and not.
That you've never used.
Exactly. But it's better than moving around a giant table that I've never used.
Also, make sure you guys watch the Discovery Channel. Tony will be on Hoarders pretty soon.
Wait, no, you're not supposed to know about that. That episode's not going to air. So I've named my, now I'm distracted. Named my reference planes. So basically I drew a box around this with reference planes and gave them a name. The names are not super critical, but they are useful. It's a habit of mine to always name the reference planes, to always draw them the same direction, left to right, bottom to top, just for consistency. When you're drawing them in the project, they're not as useful if you don't name them. They just don't appear in the list if they don't have a name. Okay, so we added reference planes and we named them. So in this slide, we renamed the family, created reference planes. So what's next? Oh, let me add some dimensions. All right, there's Revit. So add some basic dimensions. I didn't point out the ways of creating the reference planes. I'm kind of a keyboard person, so I type DI for my dimension. I'm just going to do these other dimensions, even though I don't need all of them quite yet. Right now, I'm just going to work with this top dimension. So added dimensions. DI is a keyboard shortcut. It's dimension aligned. It's the one that I use 90% of the time. When that's selected, when I've selected the dimension, I have an option in the options bar. Always look at your options bar. There's often, not always, but there's often good stuff in there. In fact, as far as I know, this is the only place where I can add a parameter. I can choose an existing one, like width. Oh, I'm going to do a width. Nope, I'm going to do a clearance width. This width is the property referring to the width of the electrical panel. I want to add a new one, so I'm going to choose add parameter. Brings up to my properties. I'm going to do clearance. Let's do clearance width. Okay, good. I spelled it right. Everything else right now is good at the defaults. It's a type property. I'm going to group it under, and the grouping is just where it's listed. Ooh, you know what? I can edit the tooltip. This is a really, as a new feature in 2015, I really like this. Pardon me. It's nothing grand, but it, I think it can be really useful. I've seen companies. Let's see if I can spell. D-I-S. I swear I hit capital D both times.
Change the tooltip to something specific to the company.
Yeah, or something useful, because I've seen companies where previously, their formulas, the parameters were named really long names, like this is the parameter to be used for the width of the overall box, blah, blah, blah. That's a really long parameter name. Mm-hmm. So I think these tooltips are really handy.
Thanks. I'm the one who came up with that idea, too.
Oh, did you?
name them really long so people can explain.
That's useful. And before tooltips, that was
After I invented Post-it notes.
wow. You know, I think my high school physics teacher invented a super ball, but he didn't really like to talk about it because his manager at I forget where it was, Lockheed, Boeing, it was one of those. Raytheon, I think it was Raytheon. His manager got credit. His manager patented it, even though it was his team that invented it. Yeah, so he didn't talk about that a whole lot.
Those are really good for the missiles they design.
Well, it's kind of an accidental thing. Like, hey, look, well, this experiment turned out poorly, but
kind of like the microwave.
Yeah. Don't stand in front of the radar. That's why they were originally called radar range. Amanda radar range was some of the first microwaves. So I added a property, and we're going to do what's called flexing it. So right now it's 8'6" and some odd fraction. Let me make this 6 foot. So basic families is you put in reference planes. Well, the property parameters will drive a reference plane. So let's see if that works. And the reference planes will drive the geometry. We haven't done the geometry yet, but we'll do that next. So it looks like it's working. If I make my clearance 6 foot, 5 foot, you can see these reference planes are moving, but dang it, they're only moving on one side. I need to add another property. Previously, I started with a dimension and then created a parameter. I can also create a parameter, starting in here, create a parameter, and then we'll add the dimension.
Did you know that radar is actually an acronym?
Yes. Do you know what it means? What it stands for?
Radio detection and ranging.
Oh, you're pretty smart for an old guy.
You're older.
Am I? I don't think so, but we'll have to...
Nobody's older than Jason, though.
He's just a little whippersnapper. Clearance width half. So I added a property in here, but I haven't done anything with it. So let's do something with that. I can move these reference planes. They're not locked to anything yet. I can move them around. I can change things. I'm going to add another dimension, just like we did before. I did DI. So from the center of this panel, and the center that reference plane is used, I can put in a dimension, go up to the top again, add a parameter. Oh, wait, I already have a parameter. I can choose this one. And watch what happens to my reference planes when I do this. They are... It took that value. It was 0, and now it's taking that value. So let's try flexing it again. Flex your model early and often. Make sure stuff works. So clearance width, make it 5 feet. Hit apply. Let's see what happens. Oh, it moved. That worked, but clearance width still isn't, it's not adjusting equally. It's not being centered. So what we need to do, this is going to be our first formula. I'm going to be, whoops, not a value. Clearance width, it's going to be a formula, equals clearance width divided by 2 is all that this one is going to be used for. So let me hit apply, make sure it works. Oh, would you look at that? Now if I change my clearance width 6 feet, apply, these are changing equally. I probably could have done that. No, actually I did need a dimension for this. I was going to say I could have done that with just a formula, but that's later on. I think there's something we can do with these formulas. Okay, so we've renamed the family, we created reference planes, we added dimensions, we added parameters. Let's skip ahead and add the extrusion just so that you can see what it's doing here. I'm going to go to the 3D view. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to go to the 3D view yet. I need to add the extrusion. We haven't done that part. So right now I've got the, let's say the skeleton, like the bones or the reference planes. I've got ligaments or muscles with the dimensions and parameters, but I don't have any skin or flesh yet if you're using a physical analogy, which has been used before. So I started the command for an extrusion. I'm going to create an extrusion rectangle, and you can see I'm snapping to the reference planes, that box that I drew earlier. Once I've drawn the extrusion, it's important that you go right back and lock these. You can come back later, but it saves me a few clicks if I do it right away. Let me change, whoops, not 15. Change my extrusion depth. So I've done a couple of things. I've added the depth. You know, that one's not so important. Creating extrusion and locking it is the important part. All right, so I'll finish that up. Well, looks so far so good. Let's look at it in 3D. Here's my 3D model. Now let's try flexing it in 3D. So to flex it, I'm going to go back to my family types. You might hear me call that the properties box because I do that sometimes. If I change my clearance width, 4 feet, let's make it 2 feet. Hit apply, and oh, would you look at that? It's working. With an audience even. I recommend flexing, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, flex your model early and often to make sure that it's working, because if you wait till the end and then find out it's not working, you've got a lot more settings to troubleshoot. It's hard to tell which ones are which.
They're not making a double dimension and hit equal on the dimension.
Ah, that would be an easier way to do it, but I'm planning to add something later. So there is a method to my madness, at least this time. Sometimes it's just madness. Now I lost my train of thought. Any other questions?
Speaking of that, isn't there the big Thomas the Train event coming up at the Railroad Museum?
I have no idea.
Okay.
You trying to distract me?
No.
Oh, because it worked. Formulas and extrusion, locked reference planes. I'm going to go back actually and add a couple more things, because so far we can only change the width. We can't change the depth or the height. I'm going to do the depth first because that's simple. Let me go to the front view. Okay. And yesterday when I was playing around with this, I accidentally did the wrong one. This is the host, and I can tell because I can't delete it. Okay, so this is the extrusion that I'm looking for. I want to be able to adjust the width of this because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because I'm not an electrical engineer, mechanical is a degree, the clearance in front of the panel should be 36 inches or the width of the panel, whichever is greater. So if somebody knows that answer, knows the spec better than me. And I think I've seen 30 inches and 36 inches, to be honest. So feel free to correct me. So I'm going to create another reference plane. A couple ways to do that. One of my first favorites is select whatever it is I want, and I type CS, which is the same as create similar on the right-click menu. Then I can create another level, another reference plane. I want this to be straight, horizontal, perpendicular, but not at an angle. It needs to be straight. I drew it left to right. I'm actually going to give this a name so that I can use it. I'm going to call it clearance depth. Clearance depth. Alrighty. And there it shows up, clearance depth. Now remember how we did the extrusion, then we just locked it immediately? I can always come back later because this extrusion already existed. Just drag that extrusion, or you can use the align command in the ribbon. That one works too, or just drag the grip and then come back and lock it. Make sure you lock the extrusion with this little padlock symbol. Bam, now that extrusion is locked to the reference plane, so if I drag this reference plane, the extrusion moves with it. If I wasn't in a hurry, I would do this in 3D. I'd have the views side by side. You can see it moving in 3D also. So another option, I want to put a dimension in there so that I can add a parameter. The parameter will drive the dimension will drive the reference plane will drive the geometry. And Revit actually works better that way. You can have dimensions drive geometry directly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just the way Revit's made to work. What I'm going to do right now is I have a temporary dimension because I've selected that reference plane. I can, if I hover over this, it tells me the tooltip, make this temporary dimension permanent. I can just click on that, and with one click, I have a dimension, although now I notice that dimension went to the wrong place. It's dimensioning from the face instead of the host. All right, so that's not the dimension I want. I'm going to have to redo this again. Where's my delete key? I can go to the Annotate tab, Dimension Aligned. I can type DI. I can do select previous. Where's my reference plane? Where'd my reference plane go? Oh, no, I deleted the reference plane. Okay, so I hit undo. Can I delete just this dimension? Okay, there we go. I'm not sure what I did. Okay, so I'm going to do the dimension again, and then I'm going to point out something important. So I started the dimension from the reference plane. I need the other end of the dimension to come from the reference plane, not from geometry, not from the host, not from extrusion, but from the reference plane. And if I click now, I'm going to get essentially the level, which would probably work, but I'm going to press tab, and it might be hard to see. Yeah, it's a little hard to see on the screen, but the geometry is changing, and it's telling me the tooltip is going to snap to a reference plane. Remember the hover tab click? If you're not already using hover tab click, that's an awesome tool that will save you lots of time because there's things that you can do with that you can't do with other tools. Alrighty, I have this dimension. I'm going to go through the same process again. I'm going to select the dimension, create a new parameter for it because I haven't created one yet. I'm going to call it clearance depth. Everything else is good as a type property. It's a family parameter. It's a shared parameter. Group it under dimensions. You know what? I could add a tooltip, but I'm going to skip that just to save some time. Hit OK. OK. Let's flex this. Always flex just to make sure, which is testing it. So clearance depth. Let's make this 2 feet. Hit apply, and in 3D, good. Change this. Make it, I don't know, 30 inches. Hit apply. Ooh, that's 30 feet. 30 inches. Wow, typing is as hard as talking. 30 inches. Hit apply, and it moved. Let me make it, whoops, good 3 feet. 3 feet. Hit apply. Excellent. It seems to be working. I can test the other ones just to make sure that they're working. Okay, so we've got a width and a depth. Those looked pretty good so far. I'm going to save the height till last because I'm going to come back to the family. In fact, let me do this in the 3D view. Back to the family. Back to the formulas, the properties. Clearance, depth, and width can, well, there's a spec for that. And oh, Chris, did anybody type in preferences, 30 inches, 36 inches?
Nobody typed in anything.
Okay. That's
Expected more from Jason and some of the people.
There's a lot of people on today.
Oh, there's a ton. Again, we love it when the webinars fill up like this. Just, shows that we're doing something. 36 minimum from the front of the panel. Thanks, Steve.
Excellent. From the front of the panel. So that's going to be the depth. So
Steve wins the free tour of CAD-1's office anytime he wants to stop by.
And you even get a free mouse pad off of Chris's desk if you steal it during that tour.
Just not the Harley one.
Oh, right. Yeah, you get a free CAD-1 mouse pad. Yep. Try not to get distracted. So if the width equals, say, 36 inches, or I could do 3 feet, the if-then statement is a simple formula that can be used in the parameters. And just to take a quick look at that.
He already has it. Probably took it off my desk.
He already has a Harley mouse pad. I don't have a Harley mouse pad.
Or no, he has a CAD-1 pad on his desk.
Oh, excellent. There's new, well, it's not new anymore. So I looked up the conditional statements and formulas. I can use these in the Revit families. This is how the if-then statement works. So if I have basically start off with an if, and then everything else is in parentheses. So if the length, or if this option is true, if the length, in this example, length is less than 3,000 meters, then use this. If it's not true, use the last option. So if, then, else is the syntax. You can also use it with a yes or no condition, and then it returns a value. So if this option is, so in this case, length is greater than 40, if that's true, then it returns a yes. If it's not true, it returns a no. It's just a yes or no parameter. So these can be used for other parameters. And this is in the Autodesk Revit 2015 help. I looked this up. I can type in, okay on this one. Up at the top, there's always the help menu available. You can just type in the top, if-then statements, whatever that said, logical formats, in formulas. You can search on that within Revit and get some additional help, because there's no way that I can cover every formula, how everything is used. That could be hours just looking at the formulas and the syntax. And you can do embedded ones, nested ones, multiple things. You can do Boolean algebra. You can do the trigonometry. There's a ton of stuff you can do with the formula. It's pretty similar to Excel, but not identical.
Is that similar to Boolean cubes?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind. You're trying to distract me again. It's an easy challenge. And so, that was actually clearance depth that I meant to type this in. But fortunately, these are the same. At least I'm going to make them the same. The width of the panel is going to be 3 feet, or if the panel happens to be wider or wider than that, then correct me if I'm wrong. But if the panel is wider than 3 feet, then the clearance needs to be wider than 3 feet, or whatever the width of the panel is, or 3 feet, which is greater. So the width and the depth of the clearance zone, I'm using the same formula for both.
Unless it interferes with your air compressor.
Yeah, or your chair, or whatever else you want to put in front of there. Could be pipes, or structural columns maybe. So let me hit apply and just make sure that flexing this model, make sure it works. And it seems to work. So I can change this from 100 amp. Let me go to the biggest one, 400 amp. My width is still only 1'8". So this formula looks like it's working. It's keeping it at 3 feet. It's keeping my clearance depth and width at 3 feet because that's the minimum. Even if the panel is bigger, well, if the panel is smaller, it's still got to be 3 feet. Okay. Hit up OK. Going back to the overall steps. I keep going back to these same steps. We've added dimensions, we've added parameters, we've added formulas. We actually did the extrusion. I jumped ahead and did that just so that you could see it. I have a couple more formulas. It looks like I do have time for that. Let me go back to Revit. Let me go back to the reference level. And I'm going to add 2 more formulas. It's going to be the same process again. For this one, the top and bottom, see at the on the top I did an overall width for the clearance. But for the top and bottom, I need those to be different because the bottom is going to be whatever the mounting height is, say 4 feet or 3 feet. I need this to be to match that distance to go to the floor and stop. There, well, let's see. Let me go through this. So I've selected the dimension because I already have it there. The dimension's running the reference planes. Reference planes are going to drive my extrusion, but I need a parameter. So I'm going to call this. Whoops, that's not it. You can tell I keep using copy and paste. Clearance. See if I can copy one of those again because I'm a horrible typer. Clearance. Bottom is just what I'm going to name it. You can name it whatever makes sense for you. Maybe just clear or zone, something shorter. Personally like short names, but also useful names. Oh, the underscore is not required. It's just because I'm old school. I just almost always use an underscore. And whatever your company standards are, whether it's initial caps, all lowercase, whether it's spaces, dashes, underscores, consistency is more important than the syntax as far as naming these. So the underscore is not required. I just use it for myself for consistency. And it's a way to tell that any parameter with an underscore, it's probably one that I created. So I'm going to add a clearance bottom. And this is the first time I'm going to make an instance property because these panels could be mounted at different heights. I just want that ability. So if they're mounted at different heights, the clearance zone from the floor to the panel, floor to the center of the panel, is going to be different to match the mounting height. So this one I'm going to make an instance property. Hit OK. OK, so that seems to work. And we'll do the same thing for the top. Add a parameter. Oh, I could have created a parameter. So I can make this clearance top. Make sure I make it an instance parameter again. Yeah, before I go off on the tangent, do that. Looks like we're good. I should flex that. I should make sure, test this. So I go to I like to do it in the 3D view because I'm working with 3D things now. Clearance bottom, 3 feet. Make it 4 feet. Hit apply. Oh, there it goes. It moved. And now you can see it moved to the bottom of my host. That's probably good. Clearance top, 4'9". Let's make it 6 feet. Hit apply. Oh, moved on up. Okay, so it looks like it's working. Didn't break anything. When I go back to my plan view, which is really an elevation view, but in the family editor. So a couple of things to point out. One is that when I'm in the 3D view, if you can see the view cube, if you can read it, it says the front is looking this way and the top is looking down in this viewer, but if you know the panel, if you're it would actually be looking at the front, but Revit says this is the top. It says the top is the front and the front is really the bottom, if you can see that on the view cube. Revit assumes that this host is always the wall. So it assumes that you're always looking down, that this direction is down, that you're looking down at the floor. But this is going to be a wall-hosted object. It's technically face-hosted. It could go to any face, but we're usually going to put electrical panels on the wall, not the floor or the ceiling. But Revit still, when you're in the family editor, assumes that you're mounting it to the floor, period. What you can do, you can go in and rename these views, and that renames it where appropriate. I know Juge goes through that. I believe he went through that in his webinar. So just something to be aware of. I'm not going to go through that process. Just something to be aware of if you haven't worked with families before. Let's see, what else? Create extrusion. Oh, we need to look at some visibility. So if I go back to, where am I going? Wrong way. If I go back to here, I added formulas, create extrusion, locked in the reference planes. Let's create and assign a subcategory for visibility. And to show you why, let me save this file. And in addition to flexing it, it's a good idea to test it every once in a while by loading it into your project. So I've got it given it a new name. This one has CAD-1 in the name, .rfa. Okay, so it won't overwrite my original. Load this back into my family. Takes me in the mode where I can place one. Oh, look, it looks kind of like the last one, but it has a clearance zone around it. In fact, the clearance zone is blocking the view. Okay, so the clearance zone worked. I can do a couple of things here. I can find my dimensions, clearance top, bottom. I can't change the clearance width because that's driven by the width of the panel, which is probably good. Let's see, what else would I need? I might want to put an offset in here so I can go left to right, because if I understand correctly, I could put the panel, if you can see the panel in there, there it is. The panel can be in the corner and the clearance zone would still be 36 inches, but it'll be offset to one side. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. That's happened before. So I might need to have an offset value in here. If we have time, I'll add that. That would be an instance property, and that's why, to answer a question earlier, why I did this with the clearance half width, so that I could have that actually driven, have a parameter, another value, adjust that, so I can adjust it left and right. Let's see, other things I can do. Oh, it's not transparent. Okay, I need to fix this so that I can turn it on and off. All right, so let's take a look at our family, and I need to start winding down. So I'll select my extrusion. Have a couple properties for visibility. I have visibility graphics. I have visible. One option would be to, well, I could come into the family and turn that on and off, and then reload the family, but that would be kind of tedious, and they would all be turning on and off. And you might not want everybody in your company to open up families for editing. I could take that visibility and drive it with a parameter. I can make a yes/no parameter, and then the user can just have a checkbox to make it visible or not. Honestly, what I like to do is to add a subcategory, which is Manage tab under Object Styles, if I'm not wrong. Yes, an object styles, good. And then I can control that when it's in my project based on a subcategory. So I'm under electrical equipment. I'm going to create a new subcategory, and I'm going to name this clearance zone. I might add an underscore. In this case, I'm going to not for consistency with other Revit things. Okay, I've got a clearance zone. You know what? As long as I'm here, I can make this, oh, I don't know, red and a dash line. This will control the visibility of it in this family, and in this family when it's loaded in the project. And if I look at this in 3D, where's my 3D view, you can see that it's still not red, still not dash lines. Oh, you know what? Now that I have this clearance zone, I need to assign that category. And this subcategory is none. Hasn't been assigned yet. Well, it's because it didn't exist until just a few seconds ago. So now I can assign this category, subcategory, sorry, of this extrusion, this object, to be a clearance zone. Well, that's a little bit better. Let me save this file, load it into the project. I did change some parameters, so I need to choose a second one. If I only changed geometry, I could just choose the first option, but I changed some parameters. Oh, look at that. That's better. If I look at this in 3D, what does it look like? Well, I can tell it's not a panel, it's a clearance zone. But, so at this point, there's a couple things I could do. I could go into the family and set the material to be glass, or I could go in here, and I'm kind of running low on time. So let me just go to electrical equipment, expand that, and there is that subcategory that I just created just a moment ago. I can uncheck this, hit apply. Now my clearance zone is gone. Obviously, if you check it, then it appears. You know, just because I'm running on time, I'm going to set my transparency here to be 50%. And now you can see the clearance zone and the panel.
One of our customers says he has a separate clearance family for specialty equipment that he loads into families and locks to reference lines.
That would work.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that he means a family of just a clearance zone. It's not a panel, not an air handler, not a lighter, diffuser, but just a clearance zone. That would work too. I can control visibility. So very quickly, back in the family, I can also address the visibility. I've selected the object, and I have visibility settings, which are also in my properties. Choose visibility settings to say, you know what, I don't want to see this on front or back, or maybe only on fine view. I'll see it in 3D and the plan views and the front and the back. And remember, I pointed out the front and the top are a little confused. That does come into play here. So if it doesn't seem to be working, it might be labeled incorrectly. What you think is a front view, Revit says is a plan view. So when I hit OK, save it again. I hit save on the keyboard, load in the project, overwrite this, and oh, it disappeared. Why did it disappear? Because this view is set to medium. Set it to coarse, still not there. Set it to fine, and there's my clearance zone. So you can also control visibility that way. I'm not going to do this, but I could assign a subcategory. I can assign a material to this subcategory in the object styles and assign it, say, glass, or just give it a transparency. But need to wind down, so let me go jump back to the slides. I know Chris always has stuff that he wants to cover at the end.
It's mostly just about Bluebeam.
Okay. Not going to make any.
So if you guys haven't had a chance to look at Bluebeam yet, I would definitely suggest you go up to Bluebeam. Just Google Bluebeam, take a look at it up there. It's been huge. One of the fastest moving softwares we've ever sold. PDF creation markup tool. There's been a lot of the contractors recently. I've been out visiting with them, and they had never seen Bluebeam, and
oh, wow.
It's been eye-opening for them. So take a look at it. Watch some of the videos that are up there. We also offer training on that, custom training, as well as on just our regular monthly scheduled classes. So,
and if you want to say online training, maybe you have some people out in the field that are not close to Denver.
Right.
I would say call Chris for that one.
You bet. How can you set the clearance to be the level above for the height?
That's an excellent question. And that's, oh, I was going to mention shared parameters too. I'm kind of running out of time. You might need a shared parameter on that one. That one is going to be a little bit tricky. And again, this webinar is, we only have an hour, so I can only cover so many topics, and that's one that I'll come back, grab it, that I just don't have time to get into. It's a little trickier. Same with setting it to be the bottom. Well, you would do the same thing for the bottom.
Did you cover that in a class, or?
I can. I don't think that's not even in the next class. There's Revit MEP. It's my standard class. It's 4 days. There's Revit Productivity, which is for any discipline, mechanical, architectural, MEP, structural, covers tools useful for everybody. And almost a full day is spent on families, and we still don't even cover everything. And I think at least most of the time I don't even get that far when we're in families, because there's a lot of stuff in families. Beyond that, I know I've been asked, are there any questions beyond that? Because the productivity is kind of an advanced class. We have one called advanced, but it's strictly architecture. Beyond that, every company is going to need something different. So it's custom classes beyond that. Or even some companies start off with a custom class. I'd say probably half of my classes have been custom. Have one coming up soon, in fact. So let me jump back to Revit quickly, or to this slideshow. So the links that I just had up on the screen, there's useful information on shared parameters. There's useful information. Let me go to the Seek. If you go to seek.autodesk.com, that's their clearinghouse. That's the word I'm looking for families. There on Seek, you can get the Revit Style Guide, the Revit Model Content Style Guide. That has a lot of information. I forget how many pages that is, for just best practices for family, things that are expected. Not so much a ground zero, step 1, step 2, step 3, but once you've made a few families, these are some best practices. And there's quite a bit in there. It's been a while since I've downloaded it. I want to say 50 pages. I could be completely wrong. There is also, oops, where am I going? Okay, that was that one. Let me see, is this, and it didn't work. There is a PDF. So if you want, I can send you a copy of the PDF. You can send an email to, what's the best one we're not using? Go ahead and just send it to tech.support@cad-1.com and put my name in there. If you want a copy of, there's a PDF. but it has not been updated in a while of best practices. There's several places from Autodesk where you can get more information on families. The PDF, if you're somebody like me who likes a book format, page by page, very linear, you can get that. It's just over 800 pages, I think. Might be close to 900 pages just on families in Revit. That one's a couple years old. They've migrated it to the help with the information that I just had on the screen. It's now in the help file. So the stuff online is current, but if you want a PDF linear format, let me know. And just wanted to emphasize it's over 800 pages long. So there's a lot of information just on families. And specifically, I think that one is actually called Revit Architecture Families. There's more stuff online for MEP. Okay, so additional stuff that we have at CAD-1. We have classroom training, custom training, mobile lab training. We can do implementation. We come to your office. I know which ones do you think are the most popular, Chris, or which ones do you think are underused?
Underused, I'd say the mobile, or not the mobile lab, but the web-based, where you guys are in your office. If you have multiple offices, but you want everybody to have basically the same training, we can hook that up through the different computers, different locations, anywhere in the world. So
that's true.
You do have to have a fairly decent connection, but we can definitely do that. And then the on-site has just been buried.
Yeah.
Every time you look at the calendar, you don't see Tony doing something. He's typically at somebody's office doing something else for them. So
yeah, I think I finally got a free day, the first Monday in October. I think I have a free day.
That's because it's my birthday.
Oh, is that your birthday?
Yep.
Happy birthday.
Yep.
How old are you going to be?
The anniversary of my 21st birthday is 26. Also, you guys, just a heads up, you got 100 days till Christmas.
What?
So, yeah.
What?
100 days.
No.
Yep.
Impossible.
Nope. Just figured it out in my head. Jason's going to call me a cheater again, but, you know, I actually figured that out.
Some specific things coming up. Sorry, did you want to?
Oh, no.
Go through these?
No. But, yeah, we have webinars coming up that you guys should definitely look at. If you guys have any suggestions for webinars, let us know also.
Yes, definitely.
Rhombus is tonight.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I forgot. I was going to write that down.
Yeah. So Meetup, just Google Meetup, ROMBIS. They're meeting tonight, I think, at Kephart Architects. So if you can't find it, then email me, cporter, P-O-R-T-E-R, at cad-1.com. There it is right there.
And where does it say MEP? There's MEP. So tonight, whoops, wrong button. Go away. I didn't mean to hover over there. There we go. Perspective of an MEP firm. Rhombus is everybody's architects, interiors, structural, GCs, subs, and MEP, and anybody else. But tonight's going to have an MEP focus.
Right. The cool thing about Rhombus, it's a little bit different, is it's just not, they don't go in there and start touting about Vim and Revit specifically as it pertains to Autodesk, which we love because it's Autodesk, but they'll talk about anything having to do with building information modeling, anything that you guys are being affected by, and you can also bring up stuff. You know, we had Jason Pekovich. He was talking about the Revit Technology Conference and stuff that he had learned there. So definitely check that out if you have a chance to go there. It's always a good time there.
Yeah, that was good, and there's food. There is an MEP specific group, but email me. You can just say attention Tony at tech.support@cad-1.com,
right,
and I can get you information on the next meeting for that one. It's much smaller. It's just MEP specifically. Some other stuff coming up. We have certification days if you want to get certified in Revit or AutoCAD or
I believe those are $35 days. No,
they're more than that.
They just announced that they're going to be doing those again.
Okay. They do have some of those, but they're kind of rare. I don't know if the next one coming up is.
Okay, well, they do have that coming up sometime soon. That might not be it.
Revit Radio and Revit for interior designers. Probably don't have too many interior designers today, but that's next. No, that's a few weeks away. A couple of Revit specific webinars, as well as enhancing your detail drawings in Revit.
Hey, aren't they coming? Sorry, Jason. Aren't they coming up with the MEP certification soon?
I wish. Not that I've heard of.
I heard they might be coming out with that.
That would be most appreciated.
Yeah.
Because the certification is technically Revit architecture. And my thought is, if you're going to make all Revit users take the architecture test, it shouldn't be so heavy in architecture, like stairs and walls and stuff. I mean, I've passed it with flying colors every time, but I just get frustrated that I have to build a stair. Like, that's the one time a year that I build a stair is when I take that test. Stairwells.
Is that where all that colors are coming from? Every time you take a test, the flying colors come out?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's classes. There's a Revit MEP class. The next one is not until November. And as well as a Revit Productivity, which is kind of a Revit Advanced, but for all disciplines. Tomorrow, and I actually checked right before this, probably just an email. I honestly don't know, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you. There may or may not be some new things coming out in Revit, which we can't even mention until tomorrow.
Oh.
What? Am I in trouble?
Yeah. No, you can't mention it.
Okay, so I didn't mention anything.
I forgot that's coming out. But, yeah, nothing's coming out until tomorrow. And if it did come out, it would come out tomorrow, and then we would be able to talk about it tomorrow.
But we can't talk about it today.
Because it's not out.
It's true.
And it may not ever be out.
Which is true. And that isn't a good possibility because I went to the website for details, and they were gone, honestly. I have a screenshot. So I could prove they were there, but now I can't find it.
So if they were to come out with something, which we're not saying they will, it might come out tomorrow.
And then if we were to talk about something that may or may not come out tomorrow, we talk about it on October 3 in a little more detail.
Right.
So more details forthcoming.
Yes. Or not.
Yeah. Okay, a couple minutes left. Any last questions anybody's typed in?
Yes, we should be able to put this recording up. Sorry about the bad jokes and stuff.
That's true. Those are permanent now.
Yeah, they are on there. And that's about it.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So let's see, I was going to add Ramos is tonight. If you have any ideas for future webinars, MEP or otherwise, let me know. tech.support@cad-1.com. Tony.
Somebody had a question about best book for families that we would recommend. It depends on what you do, but I would say custom training. It's building families, unless you have something that no book's going to be specific to every single thing that you're going to need to do out there. So look through our webinar archives, and then also just plan on doing a custom training.
Yeah, call Chris for custom training.
Yeah. Or Matt or Kelly, depending on where you're at.
I did have some links that I guess I didn't paste in here. I had the wrong ones. I can send you some links that might be helpful, but I don't. I'm sure there are some books, but the one that I saw, a coworker got it and was sorely disappointed. They said it was just bad, and that was a couple years ago. That's the only one that I can think of. I'm sure there's books out there, but it's nothing that I could recommend. I can send you some links. You can send me an email if you want the class. Talk to Chris.
Yeah, and we can, guys. When we talk about class, it's not like a monster class. We can do like an hour here and 2 hours. We can do 7 hours.
Yeah. So I recommend the full days, but we can do. Yeah. We can do. I've done half days, 4 hours at a time. And
a lot of times the 1 hour stuff it is billable, but we do that via GoTo. So you don't even have to leave your office. And a lot of times we work on specific projects that you can build to. So yeah.
If you're planning on that, see, I really, really highly, strongly recommend 2 monitors for the online training. So you can tell your boss it'll actually save money because you won't have to travel anywhere. You stay in your office by buying 2 monitors if you don't already have them.
Or 3 or 4.
Yeah. I know there's a couple people that have that. Anyway, winding down.
Perfect. Yeah. That's about it for us. We do appreciate it, again, you guys logging in. And hit us up if you have any questions. Shoot me an email. Again, that's cporter@cad-1.com. And I should be able to get back to you as soon as possible.
All right. Thanks again.
Oh, you know what? One last thing. If anybody has a chance, Google denverstartupweek.org and take a look at their schedule. You might see something up there you might like. All the classes on that are free, so take a look at it. denverstartupweek.org. I was at that yesterday. I'll be at it again tomorrow. So yeah, just right there, click on the schedule. And again, all the classes are free, and there's tons of them. I think this year they have over 8,000 people registered for several hundred classes. I I spent most of my day yesterday over at Gensler. So take a look at that. And again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email on that. Thanks, guys, and have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.